Hi, welcome to Franklin's Garage to Stage podcast. My name is Rob Wardrums Franklin, and my co-host is.
Dana Thunderbase Franklin.
How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing real well. Hey, at the start of these episodes now, I say an inspirational quote. They're typically about music, but they're just for life in general as well. But this one's pertains to music, and it's if you play music for no other reason than actually just because you love it, the skills just kind of creep up on you. And that's by Nuno Betancourt, whoever the heck he is. But anyway, that's the quote for today.
From Extreme, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Dana, introduce our guest today, please.
All right. Well, with us today, we've got a band from the Denver, Colorado Springs area in Colorado, band called Aethraxia. So how you guys doing?
Great.
We're doing good.
Maybe you can, one at a cool. Yeah, one at a time. Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and explain to our listeners, what your band's all about.
Let's start with the vocalist. Go ahead, Tanner.
Sure. What do you want to know about me? Like my music background type stuff?
Yeah, how you got started in the music biz, and basically just your overall bio. Just tell us about you.
Sure. Yeah. No worries. I started playing music pretty young. Actually, I was a little bit limited just because I grew up in this super strict religious organization that didn't really allow secular music or whatever. But I did. I learned piano.
Like a cult? You want to talk about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is a cult. Yeah.
Oh shit!
Okay. We'll get in more of that later.
Yeah, for sure. But I started playing piano. My mom was a piano teacher, and she taught me piano when I was really young. I didn't ever get really good at it because I only did that for a couple years before I switched to cello. And I played cello for a long time, actually, and played in youth orchestras and adult orchestras and musicals in the pit and stuff. But then as an adult, I got into singing through a choir and started doing solos. I would audition for the solos and I get them a lot of the time. And so I decided to do some voice lessons and some solo stuff and basically got hooked up with Steve through my teacher here in Denver. And rest is history. Steve had me come over one day. He's like, come over, we'll see what happens. And we made a demo that day. So
cool. Steve?
Yeah. Background. Yeah, I started playing. I'm super old, so I started playing guitar in the '80s. I had parents that were, I don't know, couldn't have been more disinterested in music. So I'm not sure where it came from, but I was, watching MTV when I was a kid, and I didn't want to do what my dad did, and I wasn't interested in sports, so. You begged my mom for a guitar at about age 12, and she found me a guitar teacher, and then that was it. So that's all I did. I ended up going to music school. I actually have a master's degree in jazz guitar.
Nice.
And I just played a million gigs, made a living playing, tons of different styles of music. My whole life, I own a teaching studio, so I teach lessons full time. I guess that's my day job, is teaching music and teaching guitar, and then I still play. 2025, I probably played 120 shows at least, in different bands and corporate gigs and things.
That's busy.
I think we were talking before this started, very little of that was metal. My, initial inspiration for getting into music was all the 80s stuff that I was listening to, it was Van Halen and Iron Maiden and stuff like that. But, kind of by the time I was out of high school and I started to, I went to music school and was getting paid to play a lot. None of that was metal, I always paid attention, to some new bands and stuff, but the majority of my activity has been in different styles of music. A little resurgence for me maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little more, when I moved to Colorado and I started playing. I met Stefan Flores, the Ethraxia drummer, shortly after I moved here on a jazz gig, like a suit and tie background jazz standard sort of gig,
Right.
And under his jacket, he had on a Meshuggah shirt at the jazz gig. So I was like, okay, this guy and me are going to get along. So we played like a million gigs together since then in different bands. But his band, when he was a kid, late 80s, early 90s, was a band called Titan Force. They were from here, but released some albums on a European record label, and they still have a following in certain places. So about the last 10 years, I've been going and playing shows with them in Greece and Germany, and that's much more like a kind of classic power metal, very Iron Maiden-ish sort of material. So that's kind of where I got the idea that, oh man, I want to play some, loud, heavy music again and play loud amps and distorted guitar and maybe with a little bit more modern bent. So that's kind of where this stemmed from. So
Cool.
and then I started writing some tunes and doing some demos and started looking around. I gotta find a singer that can sing this stuff. And Tanner is the guy I find in like 5 days.
Cool.
Nice.
Like what? So
That's unusual.
yeah, that's unusual. I knew somebody would be out there, but I didn't know it would be this guy this fast, so it's fantastic.
So when you first were thinking about doing the band and forming it, did you have that sound in mind and that vocalist in mind as far as that kind of a sound, or did the sound come from you guys playing? I mean, did you know right up front what you were looking for?
Not necessarily. Like I thought I wanted to just do something like incredibly heavy, and because I was listening to Meshuggah and like I was listening to Ginger, if you know that band. I like that band a lot. So I just wanted to write some of this really heavy stuff. So some of the sound of the band kind of came from, meeting Tanner and realizing like here's somebody that can sing anything. I didn't think that there would be such a multifaceted person out there. And, if people listen to the album, it's like he can do anything. So that right away sort of changed how I looked at it. Also, some of the tunes on the album ended up not being that heavy, kind of shockingly, because I have this background in all this other music. So there's some tunes that kind of came out that I was like, I didn't really intend to write that, but there we go, So yeah, so some of the stuff sounds exactly what I had in mind, and some of the other stuff is surprising because obviously I met Tanner, and then kind of some stuff came out of me that I didn't really intend to have come out either. Yeah. But generally it's what I had in mind, and it's going how I wanted it to go. I wanted to write some music and make an album and start playing some cool shows in a scene that I wasn't in, and it's going how I wanted it to go, and it's super fun. So
Now, I noticed on your videos, by the way, Aethraxia's website is, let me spell it for you, AETHRAXIA.com. And they've got some outstanding videos on there and bios as well. But one thing I wanted to ask is I hear the bass, obviously, but I don't see a bass player. Do you have a full-time bass player?
yeah, we have a full-time bass player, not on the album, because our thought was, do the album as efficiently as possible. Sometimes, if you are dealing with people or waiting people that aren't all that invested in a project, it can slow you down,
Yeah.
So,
We know.
the thought, you guys know about that?
Oh, yeah.
So I guess our thought was like, do the album, make sure that that's killer, and then we can attract these other, great players. Like Stefan and I play with a ton of great bass players. So kind of the thought was like, okay, we do the album, and then, we can attract, some other good guys. Now, for the live shows, the guy we got is a guy named Murphy Smith that had recently moved to Colorado. And, again, Stefan and I met him. We've played some jazz gigs with the guy, so he's a very schooled player, again, hasn't played much music like this, but has played a ton of music. And he's doing all the live shows and is fantastic and is very into it. So now the new recording stuff, like we're back in the studio already with new material. And now the new stuff he will play on, because we have somebody that gets it, that I think is a little invested and enjoys it, and is a good peer and friend of ours. So
Yeah,
Cool.
he's killing, man. He he has like jazz background and stuff, so he can play all the music great. But the thing that stuck out to me the first time I performed with him actually is when I really noticed it. But we had this he's just so good with his tone. Like we have this one song that kind of starts off, not necessarily starts off, but it gets into the verse a little slow and like subdued. It's almost a jazz solo with like a little voice line on top. And like I had to like remind myself to sing because he started playing that and I was like, oh my God. Like it just sounded so cool. And he wasn't like playing the line any different, but his tone was just, it was so good. I was like, I like this guy.
Very cool. Nice.
Okay, so getting back to the name Aethraxia, when I first discovered you guys with some of these groups that I look at and stuff, I saw the name and the way you had it spelled with the A and E kind of combined. I was trying to figure out. I was like, well, how do they say that? I gotta say the marketing behind it's fucking genius because now that name is just etched into my brain forever. I mean, was that something you guys did on purpose, or how'd you come across that name?
Go for
Man.
it.
We were looking around, and I had just, it was around the time like Stephanie and I were going to Greece with this other band, so I was kind of checking out some Greek stuff, and I think we wanted a name that in a way was positive, because Tanner and I kind of talked about maybe if there's a message of the band or whatever, and despite the aggressive nature of a lot of the music, I think it's overall positive, if anything else. And then if anything is like super dark, like Wake Me Up, that's maybe more like personification or storytelling.
That's
so this Ethraxia name kind of was born from like, I was looking into like Greek philosophy and stuff, not really for myself, I'm not that deep, but looking for a cool name. And I think the core of the word really has to do with like sort of the idea of like peace and inner peace and serenity or whatever. So while it looks cool with the X and we spelled it with the AE thing, so it looks maybe maybe more metal or something. Actually the core of the word is like inner peace and calmness,
And that's the word.
And we spent.
It's based on Aethraxia, right? That's the word.
I think so, yeah. So we're like, we could change it a little bit, make made up word, but there is a thread to a real thing. So yeah.
I kind of hear a lot of like Dream Theater kind of influence. Is that an influence of yours or at all?
Not really. Not really. I think. I mean, I've listened to Dream Theater. There's a lot of stuff that I've spent a lot more time listening to, but I get the comparison because, like, I've got this jazz background and a lot of that stuff sneaks in, so I guess that might be the thread or the similarity,
Okay. We haven't discussed Stefan yet. Can you give us a little bit of his background?
Stefan, he started playing drums pretty young. He grew up in Hawaii. So his first experiences drumming were like playing in jazz band and stuff when he was a kid in Hawaii. And he had some really supportive parents. He often tells this story that like for his 13th birthday, his mom went and checked him out of school to take him to the music store to buy him a drum set.
Yeah.
I didn't have those parents. And, him and his brothers, so this band Titan Force, if you check this out, that was him and two of his brothers. He has a brother named Mario that plays guitar and a brother named John that plays bass, and they all live in Colorado now. But this was their metal band in the 80s. And it started out as the three of them, and the bass player sang. And they ultimately ended up getting, if you know the band, this is pretty underground, Jagpanzer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the singer from Jagpanzer, Harry, became the singer for Titan Force, and then they were able to release some albums on a European record label. So when Stefan was young, they had a little bit of notoriety and toured a bit in Europe doing that. He was kind of a guy like me, like he got into metal, but then he was always studying drums and taking lessons, aiming to learn anything, So when I moved to Colorado and met him, I mean, I knew him as his name was tossed around as a jazz drummer, So then I finally got to play with him and, we became good friends and stuff. But, I think that's primarily what he was known for. But, just a guy that's worked making a living playing drums all these years. So.
Good. And Tanner, I apologize for playing a piece of music that you weren't featured on here, but on the way out, we'll make sure some music is played with your vocals there because your vocals are killer.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, thank you.
So
Yeah, I would say I kind of had this vision of this band where, there would be like some vocal tunes and some instrumental tunes. And really, after meeting Tanner, man, I have not like. I have no interest in writing any instrumental music for this band.
We could do it. We could do it. I could still play cello. I can still play cello. We could do it.
Oh, that needs to happen, man. That definitely needs to happen.
So for each one of you guys, I mean, there's a point in every musician's life of when that light bulb goes up and they're like, oh shit, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. For each one of you, when did that happen and how did it come about?
Great question.
All right, I'll go. Man, I was like, I think I was, like I said, I was born in this cult, and so I had like distorted visions of like what was possible or what I could do, or maybe limited visions, right? But I think I was like 5 or 6 years old. I actually remember this, going and visiting my grandparents, and they were like, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" Like everybody asks. I was like, "I'm going to be a composer."
Huh. Cool.
Like, because I'm like raised in classical music. I think that's like what people play. You know what I mean? I'm like so out there.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be a composer. But so like from a pretty early age, I wanted to write music, and I actually did write like some sheet music even as a kid, just for fun. But in high school, and I didn't mention this when I was talking earlier, but high school, I was I actually went to public school for high school, and that's when I kind of became normal and got into got into good music and stuff. I shouldn't tell on my parents too much. I love my parents; they're awesome, and they fully support me. At this point,
Met them; they seem awesome.
they're super cool. But I remember my first. I'm getting off topic here. I'll get back on in a second, but I remember I got my my first iPod Shuffle, and I had to like save up my own money, talk them into it, and the first 2 songs I downloaded was The Final Countdown and Teenagers by My Chemical Romance. And my dad heard Teenagers and was so pissed, man. He was like, they're saying, "Dad, where's that?" But anyways, yeah, so I got exposed to good music, and in high school I actually started producing like electronica and stuff. But yeah, from a real early age, I knew I wanted to be involved in music, but I would say I didn't really fancy myself or see myself as a vocalist until about 4 or 5 years ago, and really committed to metal about 2 years ago.
Steve, how about you? When was that moment, that light bulb went off? Say, "Oh, this is it, music."
Man, it was pretty early. I always knew I probably needed to do something creative, like maybe naively, but I think back, I'm like, man, I'm glad if that was naive. I'm glad that's what I followed that. I was always a creative kid. Like before I got into music, it was art. I was like this nerdy kid that always traveled with like notebooks and colored pencils and shit. Now I'm like a nerdy adult that travels with a guitar. So, but and I would like, I got like a Super 8 movie camera and made like claymation movies and stuff like that.
Really? Wow, sweet.
And and my dad's probably horrified because I grew up in North Dakota too, which much like Tanner, man. I grew up in a place you got to get out of. So I think my dad wanted me to be involved in sports and stuff, and I just had no interest. It's like I could sit there for hours on end and make freaking claymation movies with a Super 8 video camera. My dad was probably horrified. But I think I got to like age 12, and it was like, okay, I do this creative stuff. I seem to need to be able to do this, but like this other stuff isn't really cool. Like I'm 12, 12, 13. I'm starting to think about like, am I going to get some girls with like, hey, come over and watch my freaking claymation movie, So I think that factored into it, but that was, MTV was in its prime too, and I was just like, oh my god, this whole culture of music and being cool and the
And women.
creativity. I begged my mom for guitar lessons, and I don't think I had, there's probably, most people are probably more naturally talented than I was, because it was tough going trying to get, learn how to play an instrument at first or whatever, but I was just determined. So I think I decided early on, even though I don't even think I had consciously decided, I had decided, and now that I'm old, I'm in my 50s, and I've been doing this my entire life. I've managed to make a meager living in music, and I just think that I thank my younger self for getting me into this, because I don't know what else I would have done.
Nice. Okay, well, talking about the claymation and the getting the girls, let's get real now. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? I mean, that's what shit's all about. Now, have you guys had discussions and about that in the band, as far as expectations and limitations and how far you can take it before you're professional and or not professional? Have you had any problems with that, and or discussions within the band about where the limit's set?
No, I mean,
Good. You haven't had to. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I have worked as a musician my entire life. Been around tons of great musicians, tons of gigs. Most of the people I've worked with, stuff I've been around, is like super pro. I mean, sure, there's a few people here and there that drink too much on a gig or whatever, but my experience is they sort of filter themselves out. Yeah, so no, and then really, like, man, I'm married. Stefan's married. I'm not really in a, maybe in my 20s, early 20s for a while, I was in it partially for the partying, but even then, not really, because I was practicing my ass off so I could do this for my whole life. So yeah, I mean, for me, whatever, man. It's I like to drink a little bit. That's about it. Stefan's probably about the same. There's no
issue.
We're not on the road or anything either. If it ever got to the point where we're traveling, yeah, I don't know. No, I don't even know if a discussion is to be had at all.
Cool. Well, that's a good thing.
Somebody falls off the stage, then it's like, hey, this is now affecting the thing.
Yeah, got to do something about this. All right. Well, we have one portion of our episodes where we ask our guests if they've had an oh shit moment where something's gone terribly wrong, either during a performance or a practice or whatever, where you just said, oh shit.
Oh, man.
Lay it on us, guys. We know there's stories out there.
Every band has them. So,
I mean, I try not to.
Tanner, you first.
I try not to dwell on shit because I know it happens, but the last gig we played, I just came in because we played to a click track, and I just came in too early on my verse, and I got to the end of the verse, and I was like, oh, they're still playing the verse, and some of the songs are more screamy, and it's like if I messed up, I could really get away with that pretty easily, just make some noise. People are gonna be like, cool. He probably said a word there. But this was one of the songs that was no screaming, just pure singing, no screaming, and I fucked it up so bad. I pretty much got into it on the last chorus. Yeah.
Well, that's not too terrible.
Now, I did just get. Now I'm just having conversation with Tanner. Sorry, I did just get the video from Michael of that show, and I didn't hear that part, but I just heard a little bit of a different part of the tune, and you sounded freaking incredible. So whatever it's worth, man.
Yeah.
Steve, you any equipment malfunctions or just something that was a no shit?
I mean, I've probably played thousands of gigs in my life, so there's probably stuff in the past. There's some really funny stories that I could tell for sure, but they would be long and wouldn't really pertain to this band. I would say in this band, just the first gig, I had a little pedal guitar rig issue that was resolved pretty quick. I would say the ongoing equipment issue in this band that has given me a problem is actually that for some reason on this gig, you would think 9 or 10 songs wouldn't be this intense, but it's super intense. So I end up like sweating on this gig more than any other gig I've ever done. And then my glasses slide down my nose, right? So I was trying to like, this is like very metal problem to have. But so I'm trying to figure out a situation where I got to like tighten this shit up or get some tighter glasses, or, I used to wear contacts, may have to go back to that. But yeah, so that's like my pressing gear issue in this band is glasses,
Well, that's pretty minor.
Yeah, it's pretty metal.
Some pretty major old shit.
Yeah,
He's over here.
that's not bad.
It's his glasses.
I need to start doing it like this, and then.
Okay, so of course our show is called, Franklin's Garage to Stage, and on the whole premise of helping musicians that are just starting out to try to find their way of how to get out of their bedroom into the stage. Do you have any advice for starting out musicians? And I mean, shit, we can go back all of our episodes about the trials and tribulations of just starting a band, let alone gigging together. But the one piece of advice that each one of you would have for new musicians and new bands that are trying to take that next stage up to actually play live.
Tanner, you got anything?
I mean, you have way more experience with this, but I would say, you do need to do it, like, make sure you're ready. I would say, like, you can never go wrong with working on your craft. But if you're ready to go on the stage, then just go get on a stage, whether it's an open mic or karaoke, go get on a stage, talk to people, be ready to be rejected. But I think the best way to actually get a gig, if you want to get a gig, you need to have a show ready. You need to have a set ready. And if you have some buddies that also have sets ready, that'll help a lot too. Just one piece of advice though is just to do it and not be afraid of rejection.
Don't be scared.
Good advice. See, what do you got?
I would say, on the personal level, making sure that you are as good as you can be at what you do, So, I was always like just incessantly practicing, and I went to music school and studied all these styles of music. My thing for years was that I just wanted to be able to go to any gig, be able to play jazz, play funk. If someone paid me enough money, I'd play a country gig or whatever, and be able to do all of that legitimately, because I wanted to make a living with a guitar, right? I mean, that was like the first and foremost thing. So I would say, for instrumentalists or vocalists, like, man, study, take lessons, like learn everything you can. People say all sorts of things like, oh, you don't need to know music theory, that'll ruin your creativity. Like, no, learn as much as you can, learn everything, And then I would say, like, take any gig, like when you're starting out, if someone wants you to play in a cover band, is going to pay you to do something, take any gig and just do it, just be brave. It's kind of two different things. I think if you take the track of like you want to be a working musician like I did, or if you just want to head right into being an original band, I think there's maybe different things to focus on. But you can do both simultaneously. I'd say take every gig, align yourself with the best musicians, or try to align yourself with like when I was younger, it was always like I wanted to play with older, more experienced players, always be the worst. If I'm the worst, then I'm always learning, in the bands that I'm in.
Yeah.
Probably a big piece of advice would just be like, try to enjoy it all too, right? Like, this is supposed to be fun. Even if you're working, forcing yourself to do things, like, this shit's really cool. Music's really freaking cool. And remember to have fun, So
that's what it's all about, right? You may have already said this, and I apologize if you have, but when did the band actually form, and what are your plans for 2026?
I think the band formed when I met Tanner. Because it was an idea before that, it was like, me and the drummer.
Was that recently or when?
We could write some music or whatever. When I met Tanner, it was like, okay, like, hell yeah, when you find, a key piece or another person that's like-minded and motivated, then it's like, hell yeah, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We know that. Yeah. Yeah. We know the feeling.
I think I came over and met you, was it November 1st last year?
Oh, last year. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a year. All right.
You've accomplished quite a bit in that short time frame.
Yeah, I think so. And it's really only been the first show that we played was August. What was it? August 22nd. August 22nd. So yeah, we have a show again in a couple weeks. So then it's, really in the first 4 months since we peaked our heads out, we released that album and have played at this point like a number of shows. So
Yeah, from what I've seen recently, you guys have been really busy. I mean, I see a bunch of clips of shows that you guys have done, and it looks like you're out there quite a bit, which is nice.
mm-hmm.
Any pre-show rituals? Good or bad? Lay it on us. Anything
No,
crazy?
I mean, I think maybe you have to be on tour or something at a certain level before you can afford to have a ritual. It's kind of like a lot of these shows are like, there might be 3 or 4 or 5 bands on a show, so it's like, man, you're hanging out. I mean, I just like hanging out, talking to other musicians. That's what like really super fun thing for me. Hang out, and what's your time to set up and go? You set up and go. I think I remember seeing a interview with the singer from that band Train a few years ago, and he was, they're like a super famous band, right? So you have the luxury of like, green room and dressing rooms and stuff. And he was talking about he had some multi-stage pre-show ritual of applying essential oils. Like, man, I'll never need that, man. I'll just like maybe like drink some beer and talk to some other dudes and some other bands and then go play. So there's none for me. I don't know.
I
No
don't really have
superstitions
any.
or
I do have.
no superstitions like favorite socks or whatever.
I have superstitions. Yeah, I don't have rituals, but I have superstitions. One of my
All right.
superstitions is I don't. It's not totally superstition, but I don't practice the day that I'm playing. I warm up obviously, but never practice the day I'm playing. And part of that's just like a principle of mine, so that I make sure I'm ready by the time that day comes. And if it's like I'm not ready, well, it's like, well, you fucked yourself, so deal with it and maybe do better next time. But no, I really don't like to practice the day that I play. And I think that's kind of superstition. The other thing I don't do on the days I play that I do almost every other day is smoke weed. Don't do that on days I play. Maybe if I
All
wasn't
right.
singing, I would. Maybe if I wasn't singing, I would. But I just don't want to risk anything with my voice. I've just gotta be
Or
so
like
careful.
right before a podcast.
Yeah, no,
It's like a Cheech and Chong moment there.
yeah. I teach voice actually, and I part of
Nice.
vocal health and stuff. I've like watched videos of people like vocal cords and stuff. And with weed, it's it's not necessarily the smoke. Like people smoke and they're fine or whatever. But like when you're stoned, your vocal cord like mental connection isn't as strong. And like there was a video of one guy singing stoned, and like his one side of his vocal fold like wasn't activating, so the other side was like having to
Wow.
work harder. Like they weren't coming together. It's like the other side was coming to it, and it's like, people, there's so many great stoner musicians, singers out there in the world that have made incredible careers for themselves. But I know it makes me sound different, so I don't want to mess with it. So yeah, I don't smoke, don't practice. That's about it.
So 26, what do you guys got lined up? I mean, what's the first things on your calendar in 26?
I think we have 3 shows in January, and then man, we're gonna release a bunch of material hopefully in 2026. So we've already been back in the studio. Tanner and I are getting together, and there's at this point a growing mountain of material to finish and release and stuff. So hopefully we have a good year,
Yeah.
being able to feed that to people who already dig the band and pull some more people in and be able to play a lot. At this point we're playing the album, but hopefully, as soon as the next show, we got enough material so no show will be the same.
Nice.
Nice. That's very
Nice.
cool.
So when you do your live shows, do you have your own sound guy and lighting guy, or is that depending on venue?
We don't have our own people.
No, I think yeah, I think we have to get to a certain point before we could do that. Most of the venues that we have played, maybe save one, are super pro. You know, the gear, the sound guys that we've dealt with, people have been super pro. So, you know, at least, you know, the region that we live in, we're pretty lucky with the venues. So sure, it'd be great to have, you know, lighting guy, sound guy, and probably at some of these places, you know, we could probably lobby to bring our own guys in, but you know, that's logistics and paying them and stuff. And I think for what we're doing, the house guys are doing a pretty good job so far. So
What was I going to ask you? Oh yeah, for a brand new listener, how would you describe your music and your band to like brand new listeners? And right now you're speaking of almost like nearly 75,000 downloads in 30 countries and 200 cities. So tell our listeners about the band, how you would describe it to somebody asking you on the street.
Tanner, how would you describe it?
Okay, I always start off, I say it's progressive metal, just to get a nice umbrella term out there that they can fit it under. And then I usually say something like it's like kind of highbrow and it's really virtuoso and there's a
All
lot
right,
of
there you
talent. Yeah, that's usually how I describe it.
go. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, and I think it's going to evolve. You know, I mean, that's like kind of the first. You know, the album is the first crop of tunes. You know, so yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't even really know how to describe it. You know, being close to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so
Yeah,
many
that's probably
labels.
it. Yeah, it's probably too highbrow.
Too highbrow. But it's like, it's not necessarily groove metal. It's you got to listen to it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's elements of a lot of things in there. You know, so yeah.
Cool, cool. What's your guys' practice regiment like?
Oh
How
man,
many times? How many times a week? How long? You know, I mean, is there anything set in stone, or is it just like you call Tanner's like, dude, let's make some music?
Let's make some noise today.
yeah. I mean, we could get together more, but the guys, you know, at least the instrumentalists involved in this band, you know, we come from this world of like, for like decades, I've done gigs, and Stefan and Murphy, the bass player, for decades, we've done tons of pro gigs where there's no rehearsal and you might not even have met the people you're playing with before you play. You know, sort of corporate band gigs. Actually, Murphy subbed with a different band that Stefan and I play with on Saturday, and he came in and there were tunes with a different singer none of us had played before, and they were great, right? So we kind of come from this world where, you know, since I've been young, it was expected like, hey, if you get called for this gig, there may not be a rehearsal. You show up and you just kill the gig, or we don't call you again, right? You know, maybe different than a lot of, you know, I think a lot of rock bands maybe do a thing where they play together, they get together and play together all the time, or they have to do that to keep things sharp or whatever. But it's like, man, guys like me and Stephanie Murphy, we're sometimes playing 3 or 4 other gigs that week. So it's no longer a question of like, oh, can I play my instrument with these people, or I need to practice my instrument with these people. It's like, can you play the show? You know, I would probably prefer to get together a little bit more, but I feel like the tunes that we've been playing live, we don't need to get together very much. You know, I think it's going to be, if we haven't played for a little bit, definitely when we add some new tunes to the set or whatever, you know, then when we get together. But it's like, man, I can count on, you know, we can all count on each other to like, hey, if we haven't seen each other for 2 weeks and we're going to show up and play a show, that show's going to kill, you know?
Cool.
Oh, that's
awesome.
very
So I don't know, Tanner, what you think about it. I mean, I would prefer getting together a little bit more, but it's like everybody's busy, but everybody's also super pro and doesn't necessarily need it, maybe like some people that have less experience. So
Yeah, no, I think it's been working great. I mean, as we add more to the set, we'll run the set again. We'll just do a quick rehearsal for any time we change the set, and it'll be fine. And then Steve and I get together a little more often, just to like make demos and stuff. But yeah, we get
How
together
is
more on
the
the creativity side. But yeah, as far as rehearsals, I think we do great. Just yeah.
Good to have that confidence level with each
Yeah.
other. That's very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think maybe the last time we rehearsed, I think we had the space reserved for 3 hours or something. We got together and we played through the set once, and we were all like,
Now what?
we could run it through it again or not. Like,
Yeah. I mean, we're playing to a click.
you know?
We're playing to a click, and we're playing it exactly as it's written, exactly as it is on the album. So it's super easy to like practice at home. You can just practice with the album, and it's like, you know.
How is the Denver area for getting shows? Do you guys for new venues? What are the club owners like requiring of bands out there?
It's pretty cool. I'm pretty shocked because this was really not my scene around here before this band. And I've been doing the one reaching out and booking, and man, we've played in less than 4 months. I think we will have played 7 shows. A number of those have been headlining shows, whether we deserve it or not. I don't know. Our band's pretty cool, but we're still pretty new. And it's been relatively. Yeah, there's some annoying things about booking in this scene, but it's been relatively easy, I think. And I think it's going to continue to be easier as we reach more people at shows and as we play with more other bands and stuff and build those friendships and connections and stuff. But man, I've just been having an unbelievable amount of fun at the shows, and yeah, it's really cool. I think it's going to continue, and this is actually a pretty good area where you could have a band like this, an original band, and be kind of busy with it, actually.
That's nice. Yeah, you can't do that in a whole lot of areas. So
that's very true.
Awesome
Yeah.
that you
Right.
got that. Well, we're going to check out some more music from you guys here. So let's get this queued up, and here we go. There's Tanner.
That's just prime Tanner right here, man. Yeah.
Hey guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
It's
Absolutely.
been awesome. Thanks for having us.
Any closing words for our listeners while we're listening to your music?
Listen to us everywhere. Special character typing. To type it, at least on a Mac, to type an A and E together, hold down the A until the special characters come up and pick this A and E together. That might have been the one marketing flaw with the name of the band is,
I love it. I think it works
you gotta
well.
be able to type a special character, but we're not the only band. We're not the only metal band that has that in it. So
Well, we're going to be putting your website link as well as your socials on our website. Please do the same for us, and thank you guys very much.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. You guys
Yeah,
are
thank
awesome,
you.
and I'm gonna end up the show with a little quote: "Live each day to the fullest potential," because that's what we all love to do in the music world. Go out there and give it your best. Thanks, guys.
yeah. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.